My fiancé cheated on me before the wedding. You won't believe what happened next. The clock was ticking down to what should have been the happiest day of my life. I was Michael Carter, 30 years old, a software engineer with a promising career and a bright future. Tomorrow, I was set to marry the love of my life, Emily Greene, a 28-year-old marketing executive. Everything about our relationship felt like a fairy tale: intense chemistry, shared dreams, and laughter echoing through every moment we spent together. Friends had warned me about the chaotic, drama-filled wedding planning process, but I was confident that our love would conquer all. Yet, here I was, standing in our cozy apartment, staring at the wedding dress hanging from the door. It was pristine, white, and beautiful, just like Emily. I could almost hear the wedding bells ringing in my head, the soft murmur of vows exchanged, and the laughter of our closest friends and family. We had spent the last few months meticulously planning every detail of our big day. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, an unsettling feeling crawled into my gut, gnawing at me. I grabbed my phone, checking it for the millionth time that evening. Emily had gone out with her friends for one last girls' night, or so she claimed. Part of me wanted to trust her completely, but an unshakable feeling of dread filled my chest. As I paced the living room, the more I thought about it, the more agitated I became. Just as I was about to dismiss my worries and call her, the doorbell rang. My heart raced. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find Jason, my best friend since childhood. He was out of breath, his eyes wide with urgency. "Mike, we need to talk," he said, stepping into the living room, looking over his shoulder as if someone was following him. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." "It's Emily. He hesitated, collecting his thoughts. "I saw her with someone." I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't just stand by and let you get married tomorrow without knowing. A chill shot through me, and I felt my heart drop. "What do you mean? With who?" He took a deep breath. "You remember that guy, Kyle? The one from her college? I saw them together tonight, at a bar, making out." His words hit me like a slap in the face. My mind raced back to all the times Emily had mentioned Kyle, always with a glint in her eye. He was just an old friend, she'd said, and I believed her. The tightness in my chest turned to a crushing weight, and I felt sick. "Are you sure?" I demanded, my voice trembling. "I mean, maybe it was a misunderstanding." Jason shook his head solemnly. "I followed her. I saw it with my own eyes. They were all over each other, Mike. I couldn't just let this slide, not when you're about to marry her." My thoughts swirled in a storm of disbelief and anger. The wedding, the dreams, the vows, we were supposed to be building a life together. How could she betray me like this? I felt my knees weaken, and I stumbled back against the wall for support. "I can't believe this is happening." Jason moved closer, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "You need to confront her, Mike. Don't let her manipulate you into marrying her after this." The reality of the situation began to sink in. I thought of the engagement ring still nestled in its box, waiting to be slipped onto her finger tomorrow. The thought made my stomach churn. What should have been a day filled with joy was now a ticking time bomb. With shaky hands, I grabbed my phone and called her. "Emily, where are you?" I demanded when she answered, my voice steadying with determination. "Hey, Mike. I'm just out with the girls, having a little fun. We're at the Red Room. I'll be home soon," she chirped, her voice bright and carefree. Little did she know, I had already seen the truth. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "I need you to come home. Now." "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone shifting to confusion. "Just come home, Emily." The next 30 minutes felt like an eternity as I paced the apartment, replaying every moment we'd shared, every intimate conversation, and every laugh. My mind whirled, and a flood of memories washed over me: her radiant smile, her infectious laughter, and the way she always held my hand as we walked through the city. But underneath it all lurked a darkness I had ignored for too long. Finally, I heard the key turn in the lock. Emily stepped inside, her hair slightly tousled, a carefree smile on her face that instantly dropped when she saw my expression. "Mike, what's going on?" "Sit down," I said, my voice colder than I intended. She hesitated, sensing the tension in the air. "You're scaring me. What happened?" "Jason saw you tonight." "With Kyle," I said, watching her face pale. "How could you do this to me, Emily?" Her eyes widened, disbelief washing over her features. "What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. Jason must be mistaken." "Is he?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? We're getting married tomorrow." A silence enveloped the room, heavy and suffocating. Emily's eyes darted around, searching for an escape. "It's not what you think." I was just what? I interrupted, my anger boiling over. "You were just making out with your ex-boyfriend?" Are you really going to stand here and try to deny it? The truth hung thick in the air, and I could see the facade slipping from her face. Okay, I made a mistake. But it didn't mean anything. We were just what? I scoffed, my heart breaking as I confronted the woman I thought I loved. Were you just going to play house tomorrow? Pretend like nothing happened? Please, let me explain, she pleaded, her voice rising in pitch. But I was done listening. Rage consumed me, and I could feel my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I took a step back, shaking my head in disbelief. You're pregnant, aren't you? Emily's eyes flickered with fear, and in that moment, I knew I had hit the nail on the head. What? No, she exclaimed, but the desperation in her voice told me everything I needed to know. It's true, isn't it? I accused, my voice barely a whisper as the pieces of this twisted puzzle fell into place. Her silence spoke volumes. With a mixture of heartbreak and anger coursing through my veins, I felt the ground shift beneath me. My future, my life, my everything was crumbling in front of me. As the reality set in, my heart shattered, and I turned away from her, staring blankly at the wedding dress that now felt like a mockery of our love. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. As I paced the living room, a storm brewed inside me, a chaotic mix of heartbreak and fury. Tomorrow was supposed to be my wedding day, a celebration of love. Instead, it was turning into a confrontation that would change everything. I took a deep breath and looked back at her. You need to leave, I said, my voice steady, despite the turmoil raging within. I had to think clearly. I had to plan my next move. What would I do now? How could I turn this around? Revenge wasn't just a distant thought, it was a burning desire coursing through my veins. I wouldn't let her get away with this. With that thought, I knew this was only the beginning. The night was far from over, and I had plans to make. The chaos of the present couldn't erase the memories that flooded my mind as I stood there, staring at Emily with a mixture of disgust and betrayal. The last few months, the laughter, the sweet moments we'd shared, it all felt like a cruel joke now. The truth was a knife that cut deeper than any betrayal could. I needed to understand how we got here, how this beautiful facade of love had crumbled into ashes. Emily and I had met at a mutual friend's party 2 years ago. She was radiant, her laughter infectious, and I was immediately drawn to her. Our connection was instantaneous, and every moment we spent together felt like a scene from a romantic comedy. We bonded over late-night conversations, spontaneous adventures, and dreams of a future together. She was ambitious, passionate, and I admired her drive to succeed in her career as a marketing executive. I had proposed 6 months ago, and planning the wedding had been a whirlwind of excitement. The thought of spending my life with her had filled me with joy, but now, I was left searching for answers. I recalled the little signs I had overlooked, the late nights at work, the phone calls she always took in another room, the vague references to old friends that seemed to pop up out of nowhere. In my heart, I had wanted to trust her completely, to believe that our love was stronger than any temptation. But what had she done behind my back? I ran a hand through my hair, fighting the rising tide of anger. I needed more than just Jason's word to understand the depth of her betrayal. I decided to dig deeper, to confront my own ignorance, and to expose the truth of what had been happening. If this was going to end, I needed to know everything. The next day, with Emily gone, I sat down and scoured her social media. I had been hesitant before, knowing how intrusive it felt, but now it felt like my only option. As I sifted through photos and posts, a pit of dread grew in my stomach. I found a thread of messages that made my blood run cold. It was a group chat with Emily, Kyle, and a few other friends. As I read through their exchanges, it became evident that the affair wasn't just a one-time mistake, it was a full-blown relationship disguised as a friendship. They had been flirting for weeks, planning secret meetups, and sharing intimate moments that should have belonged only to me. One message caught my eye: I can't wait to see you tonight. Just a little longer until we're free of our partners. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, and I felt the heat of betrayal ignite inside me. I felt dizzy, my hands shaking as I read the realization that she had been planning to deceive me all along, right up to our wedding day. That same evening, I reached out to Jason. He was furious when I shared my findings, urging me to confront Emily again. But this time, I wouldn't just go in blind, I had the evidence. I needed to make her understand the depths of her treachery. I can't believe she would do this to you, Mike, Jason said over the phone, his voice a blend of disbelief and anger. You deserve better. Let's figure out how to deal with this. I felt the weight of his words, but all I could think about was revenge. I was no longer just the heartbroken groom, I was a man scorned. I spent the next few days crafting a plan, something that would make Emily feel the sting of her actions, a way to make her regret every moment she had spent betraying me. My thoughts drifted back to a conversation Emily had had with her mother, overheard when I had been sitting in the living room, pretending to work. "I just wish he was more spontaneous," she had said, her tone tinged with irritation. "I need someone who can keep up with my energy." That was it. She wanted excitement, thrill, something I had evidently failed to provide. But how had she thought that cheating would be the answer? I pondered this as I plotted my revenge. I needed to flip the script, to turn the tables and make her see just how much I had meant to her. I thought of the friends she had betrayed, how they would feel if they knew what she was hiding. Surely, she wouldn't want them to know how far she had fallen. Perhaps, I could expose her to her friends, turn their cheers for her into shouts of condemnation. I began to gather a list of people to contact: mutual friends, family members, and anyone who had supported our relationship. This would be the ultimate payback. If Emily wanted excitement, I would give her something she would never forget. As the wedding day approached, the anticipation of my plan began to feel electrifying. I could envision her face when the truth came crashing down, her surprise, her horror, and the realization that her web of lies had unraveled before her eyes. I spent sleepless nights refining my strategy, rehearsing every word I would say. I had also heard rumors of a secret party that Emily had planned with her friends the night before the wedding. They had decided to throw a bachelorette party, but the whispers I caught suggested it was more than just innocent fun. My heart raced with the thought that this was the perfect opportunity to launch my revenge. "Tomorrow will be the day of reckoning," I whispered to myself, feeling a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just about retribution, it was about reclaiming my dignity, my identity, and my happiness. As I laid in bed, the familiar sounds of the city outside filled the room, but inside my heart, it was a storm of anger and determination. I was ready to face Emily and expose her betrayal. Whatever it took, I would turn the tables, and she would finally understand the consequences of her actions. Tomorrow would not just be our wedding day, it would be a reckoning, a confrontation unlike anything she could have ever imagined. She had betrayed me, but now it was my turn to reveal the truth. As the wedding day drew closer, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement, but within me simmered a mix of dread and anticipation. The decorations were being set up at the venue, floral arrangements in soft pastels adorning every corner, while the sounds of laughter and music filled the air. Friends and family were coming together to celebrate what they believed would be the happiest day of my life. Little did they know that I was preparing for a different kind of celebration, a revelation that would shatter this picture-perfect facade. In the days leading up to the wedding, I played my part well. I donned a smile, exchanged pleasantries, and helped finalize the last-minute details, all the while rehearsing my revenge in the back of my mind. Emily had no idea that every smile I wore was a mask, hiding the storm of emotions brewing inside me. The bridal shower was a grand affair. Emily's friends showered her with gifts and heartfelt toasts, recounting stories of her charm, beauty, and our romantic journey. I stood to the side, feigning interest while my heart felt heavy. How could they celebrate her when I knew the truth? Each laugh, each cheer felt like a dagger twisting deeper into my gut. I wanted to scream, to expose her right there, but I held back. I needed to be strategic. The bachelorette party was the perfect opportunity to gather information and set my plan in motion. I had a feeling that the women around her were oblivious to the affair, and if they could see the truth, it would only heighten the impact of my reveal on wedding day. That night, while Emily prepared for the bachelorette bash, I decided to do some digging of my own. My best friend Jason and I devised a plan. He'd go to the party, disguised as a friend of one of Emily's college mates. Jason was charismatic and charming, and I knew he'd fit in seamlessly. While they toasted to love and friendship, he'd collect information that I could later use. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" Jason asked, concern etched across his face. "You could just walk away from all this madness." "No," I replied, my voice steely. "I need to show her the consequences of her actions. She needs to feel the pain she's inflicted on me and what it means to betray someone you love. If she can play games, then so can I." The next day, I paced my apartment, my heart racing as Jason texted me updates. He sent me pictures of the party, the laughter, the drinks flowing, and then the message that made my stomach drop. I overheard her talking about Kyle. They are still in contact. Each message felt like a nail in the coffin of my trust. It confirmed what I already suspected, that the affair had continued even after I had discovered the pregnancy. The audacity of it all made my blood boil. I felt betrayed, enraged, and determined to flip the narrative. The day of the wedding dawned, bright and beautiful, but it felt like a dark storm was brewing inside me. As I dressed in my tuxedo, the mirror reflected a man transformed, not just a groom ready to say, "I do," but a man ready for confrontation. I adjusted my tie, ensuring I looked the part of the perfect husband, while my heart raced with anticipation at the chaos I was about to unleash. I arrived at the venue early, making small talk with the guests who had already started arriving. The scent of freshly cut flowers mingled with the chatter and laughter, creating a bizarre contrast to my inner turmoil. As the guests settled in, I caught sight of Emily, radiant in her wedding gown, surrounded by her bridesmaids. She looked ethereal, the epitome of a fairy tale bride. But the sight only fueled my resolve. While the guests took their seats, I took a moment to survey the room, plotting my next moves. Jason was stationed at the back, ready to support me if things went sideways. I felt a rush of adrenaline, knowing that I had the upper hand. I had uncovered her lies, and I would not let her walk down that aisle without facing the truth. As the ceremony began, Emily and I locked eyes, her smile radiant, while I felt the weight of everything we had built, and everything she had torn down. The officiant spoke the usual platitudes about love and fidelity, but my mind was racing with thoughts of her betrayal. Finally, it was time for the vows. As she began to speak, I could see the tears welling in her eyes, genuine emotion spilling forth as she talked about our journey together. But beneath her words lay a dark undercurrent, a facade built on lies. I waited for the perfect moment, every nerve in my body tingling, ready to strike. "Emily," I interrupted, my voice steady but laced with anger. "Before you continue, there's something I need to say." Gasps rippled through the crowd as the chatter died down. The once joyous atmosphere shifted into a tense silence. Emily's face morphed from joy to confusion, and I could see the fear flickering in her eyes. I had her attention now. "I know about Kyle," I continued, my voice rising. "I know about your affair, and I know you're pregnant with his child." The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, eyes darting between Emily and me, confusion morphing into shock. The color drained from Emily's face, and for a brief moment, I saw panic wash over her features. It was the moment I had waited for, the moment she realized the game was up, that the truth was finally out. The guests were on the edge of their seats, and I could feel their whispers intensifying. Emily tried to speak, her lips moving but no words came out. She was trapped, exposed in the light of her own deceit. "Did you think you could just walk down this aisle without anyone finding out? Did you think I wouldn't know?" I pressed, my heart racing with exhilaration. "Mike, please, let's talk about this," she stammered, her voice trembling. "No, this isn't just about us anymore. You've dragged everyone here into your web of lies." I looked around, locking eyes with her friends, her family. They had no idea what she had been hiding, what she had put me through. Their gasps of disbelief echoed my own feelings, and I reveled in it. As I looked back at Emily, I knew the battle had just begun, but the first shot had been fired. The storm had arrived, and I was ready to face the aftermath of my revelation. The wedding was over, but my fight for justice was just beginning. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a whirlwind of emotions and chaos that would change everything. What would happen next? The confrontation had been unleashed, but the aftermath would bring even greater twists and revelations. The atmosphere in the venue was electric, charged with disbelief and tension. As my words hung in the air, Emily stood frozen, her face pale, a stark contrast to her wedding gown. The guests shifted uneasily, some exchanging shocked glances, others leaning in to catch every word. "Mike, please." Emily finally managed to find her voice, desperation etched across her features. "This isn't what it looks like. I can explain." "Explain?" I shot back, incredulity washing over me. "You can explain how you thought you could betray me like this and still walk down that aisle? You think I would marry you after this?" The murmurs in the crowd intensified, and I could feel the weight of their gazes boring into us. It felt surreal, the moment I had envisioned for so long finally unfolding, but the reality of the situation was far from the triumph I had imagined. "Let's go outside and talk," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper, glancing nervously at our friends and family. "I didn't mean for you to find out this way, but I wasn't having it. This was the moment I had waited for, the moment of reckoning." "No, this is how it has to be," I replied firmly, my heart pounding with adrenaline. "Everyone deserves to know the truth about you before you try to make them think you're the innocent bride." With that, I turned to the guests, who were still absorbing the bombshell I had just dropped. "Everyone, I know it's hard to believe, but Emily has been unfaithful to me." I paused, letting the weight of my words sink in. "And she's pregnant with another man's child. Her affair with Kyle didn't end when she found out she was expecting. She has been lying to all of you, pretending everything was perfect between us." A wave of gasps rippled through the crowd, and I could see some of Emily's friends visibly shaken, their expressions shifting from confusion to outrage. The silence was palpable, broken only by Emily's muffled sobs. "Mike, stop," she cried, but I was on a roll now. This was my moment to dismantle her carefully crafted facade. "I know some of you are friends with Kyle," I continued, looking around the room. "He's right there, in the back, probably relishing this spectacle. But let's be clear, Emily chose to betray me, to destroy what we built together. She thought she could play both sides, and now she's facing the consequences." As I scanned the crowd, I caught sight of Jason, who was barely containing his excitement, clearly enjoying the drama I was unleashing. He gave me a subtle thumbs up, and it fueled my resolve even more. "Emily, I hope you're proud of yourself. You wanted a fairy tale, but this is your reality. You've not only betrayed me but also your friends and family who believed in us." I could see Emily trembling, her hands covering her face as tears streamed down her cheeks. It was a sight that might have brought me some satisfaction, but inside, I felt a tumult of emotions, anger, hurt, and a strange sense of grief for what could have been. "Now, let's bring Kyle into this," I said, raising my voice to draw attention. "Kyle, why don't you step forward and explain to everyone why you felt it was okay to ruin our lives?" The tension in the room crackled as Kyle emerged from the crowd, a smug look on his face that made my blood boil. He opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. "Don't you dare say anything. You've already done enough damage. You think you can just stroll into my life and take my fiancée away from me? You're pathetic." "Hey, man, it's not my fault she wanted me," Kyle shot back, a smirk on his lips. "You should have known better than to think you could keep her happy." At that moment, something snapped inside me. The rage I had been holding back surged forth, and before I could think, I lunged toward him. "You think this is a joke?" The crowd gasped as I shoved Kyle back, and he stumbled slightly, but instead of backing down, he returned the aggression, shoving me back with surprising force. In a flash, we were both grappling, the world around us fading away. It was chaos, voices shouting, people gasping, but all I could see was the man who had taken my life and turned it upside down. I couldn't let him get away with this. "Mike, stop," Emily screamed, but her voice was lost in the frenzy. Finally, the wedding planner and a couple of groomsmen rushed in to separate us. Jason managed to pull me back, holding my arms. "Dude, this isn't the time or place." I was breathing heavily, adrenaline coursing through my veins as Kyle stepped back, his smirk replaced by a look of anger. "You think you can just ruin our lives and walk away? You're a loser." "Loser?" I spat, my voice dripping with disdain. "I'm the one standing here, exposing your lies. You're the one hiding behind a woman, trying to play the tough guy. Pathetic." As the chaos began to settle, I turned my focus back to Emily, who was now sobbing uncontrollably. "How could you do this to us?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and pain. "I'm sorry," she cried, collapsing onto the ground, her wedding dress pooling around her. "I never wanted it to end like this. I thought we could make it work." "Make it work? With a baby that isn't even mine?" I shot back, my heart breaking all over again. "You've destroyed everything we had, and for what? A few moments of passion?" She looked up at me, her eyes filled with regret, but I couldn't feel sympathy, not now. "You have no idea how hard it was to be with you when I felt so alone. I thought I loved you, but I was confused. Kyle gave me attention when I needed it." My heart shattered at her words. "So you chose to betray me? You made a choice, Emily. You didn't just slip up, you shattered our trust." As the reality of what had just happened set in, I realized that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about closure. I had exposed her deceit in front of everyone who mattered, and now it was time to walk away. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to do next. "I'm done, Emily. You can have your fairy tale with Kyle. I won't be part of your lies anymore." With that, I turned on my heel, leaving Emily sobbing in her wedding dress, the guests still reeling from the chaos that had just unfolded. I had fought for my dignity, for the truth, but I knew there was still a long road ahead. As I stepped outside into the fresh air, I felt a strange mix of liberation and sorrow. The wedding was over, but the real journey was just beginning. I could already envision a life without Emily, without the lies, and perhaps, just maybe, a future where I could heal from the betrayal. But first, I had to confront the aftermath, the fallout from this moment, the repercussions of my actions, and the choices I would have to make moving forward. Little did I know, the most shocking twist was yet to come, and it would change everything I thought I knew. As I stepped outside, the cool air hit me like a refreshing wave, pulling me from the chaos inside the venue. I leaned against the wall, trying to catch my breath, my heart still racing from the confrontation. The reality of the last hour weighed heavily on me, the embarrassment, the hurt, the betrayal. I could hear the muffled voices of our guests behind me, the buzz of shock and disbelief echoing through the walls. I had exposed Emily for the fraud she was, but at what cost? My wedding day had devolved into a spectacle of heartbreak and chaos, a twisted fairy tale gone horribly wrong. After a few moments of solitude, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Jason, his face a mix of concern and confusion. "Dude, that was intense," he said, trying to gauge my mood. "Are you okay?" "Okay?" I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow. I just ruined my wedding day and exposed my fiancée as a cheating liar in front of everyone we know. "How do you think I feel?" "Listen," Jason replied, his voice steady. "You did what you had to do. No one deserves to be treated like that. You've got a right to be angry." I nodded, but the anger was starting to fade, replaced by an overwhelming sense of loss. "What now?" I muttered, glancing back at the entrance. "I can't just go back in there. What do I even say?" "Maybe it's time to get out of here," Jason suggested, looking back towards the parking lot. "You don't need to stick around for the aftermath. Let's grab some drinks and forget this whole thing for a while." I considered his offer, but something pulled at me, urging me to confront the situation rather than run away. No, I need to face this head on. I need to understand what's happening next, even if it's ugly. As I turned back to the entrance, I caught a glimpse of Emily through the glass doors, still crumpled on the floor, surrounded by friends trying to console her. It was surreal. This was the woman I had planned to spend my life with, and now she was just another casualty of my shattered dreams. "All right, let's go back in," I said, determination setting in. "But I want to see it all. I want to know who stands with me and who stands with her." Jason nodded, and together we stepped back inside. The atmosphere was tense, guests were whispering, and I could feel their eyes on me. I scanned the room, looking for allies in this storm of chaos. But my gaze quickly landed on Kyle, who was still hanging around, talking to a few of Emily's friends, clearly trying to salvage his reputation. The sight of him sent a fresh wave of anger through me. "Stay close," I whispered to Jason, and with a firm grip on my resolve, I walked straight toward Kyle. The crowd parted, and I felt the weight of their stares as I approached him. "Nice to see you still hanging around," I said, my voice low but filled with venom. "You think you can just waltz in here after what you did? You're not welcome, Kyle." He smirked, clearly unbothered by my words. "I didn't do anything wrong. Emily is an adult, she made her choices." "Choices?" I shot back, incredulity spilling over. "You manipulated her when she was vulnerable. You're a coward." As our voices escalated, Emily approached us, her eyes red from crying but still fiery with defiance. "Stop it. This is between us," she said, standing between Kyle and me. "No, Emily, it's not just between us anymore," I said, my voice rising. "You've dragged everyone into your mess. It's time to take responsibility for your actions." The tension was palpable, and for a brief moment, I thought we were heading towards another confrontation. But just then, a loud voice broke through the chaos. "Emily, Mike." It was Mike's dad, his face flushed with anger as he stepped forward, clearly outraged. "What the hell is going on here? This is supposed to be a joyous occasion, not a circus. You've embarrassed this family." "Dad," Emily started, but he cut her off. "No, you've embarrassed us, all of us. I raised you better than this." At that moment, something strange happened. I noticed a flicker of movement at the back of the crowd, a woman stepping forward, holding a baby. My heart dropped as I recognized her. Tara, the girl from the bar, the one I had seen with Kyle during their affair. My mind raced. What was she doing here? And why was she holding a baby? "I think it's time everyone knew the full truth," Tara said, her voice cutting through the tension. She held the baby up, and I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. "Wait, what?" I said, barely able to process what I was seeing. "This is Kyle's baby," she declared, the words shocking the crowd into silence. "And Emily isn't the only one who's been hiding something." The room erupted into gasps and whispers, confusion rippling through the guests. My stomach churned as I tried to make sense of what was happening. "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my heart racing. "Kyle, is this true?" Kyle's smirk faltered, and for the first time, he looked unsure. "That's not." "Of course it's true," Tara interjected, stepping closer to me. "Emily thought she was the only one, but we've all been playing a game. She wasn't the only one with a secret." I felt as if the ground had been pulled from beneath me. Everything I thought I knew was unraveling before my eyes. My mind spun as I tried to comprehend the magnitude of this revelation. "Emily," I said, my voice shaking. "Is this true? Did you know about this?" Her face was a mixture of shock and horror as she processed Tara's revelation. I didn't know. I thought Kyle was mine. Thought what? I snapped, the betrayal hitting me like a physical blow. That you could string me along while you let him play you for a fool? While you let him cheat on you with her? The weight of betrayal felt heavier than ever. My emotions churned in a whirlwind of confusion, rage, and heartbreak. I had exposed Emily, but the chaos wasn't over. Now the question is, what do we do next? I said, feeling my resolve strengthen. This isn't just about Emily's lies anymore. This is about Kyle's deceit, too. Both of you have crossed a line, and you need to face the consequences. As Tara and Kyle exchanged panicked glances, I could see the realization dawning on them. They had both underestimated me, thinking I would just walk away. But I wasn't going to let them off that easily. Get out, I ordered, my voice steady and strong. Both of you, you've destroyed enough lives today. You're not welcome here any longer. Emily's expression shifted from anger to desperation. Mike, please don't do this. I can explain. Save it, I cut her off. I've heard enough excuses. You made your bed, and now you both have to lie in it. With a final look at Kyle and Tara, I turned my back on them, determined to reclaim my dignity and my life. I had fought for the truth, and now I was ready to walk away from the wreckage of my past and start anew. As I stepped out of the venue into the cool night air, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I had lost a wedding, but I had gained something far more valuable: clarity, strength, and the determination to build a future without the shadows of betrayal looming over me. I had faced the storm, and though the aftermath was chaotic, I was ready to rebuild my life, one step at a time. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where I would reclaim my happiness and find a path forward, free from the ties that had once bound me to Emily and her lies.